Hello, everybody, and welcome to Paranormal Path Peeps with tonight's guest, Neil Cook. How you doing, Neil?
I'm very well, thank you. Hope you're well too, Jacqueline.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely great,
absolutely
thanks.
fine. I am, thank you.
Oh, brilliant. I just want it to get warmer now.
Well, we had, I think, a cold start this morning. There was all that fairy dust all over the place. It was
Oh, wow.
-1 when I drove into my nearest town centre, and we're out in the sticks on the moor, so we were about -3. We were very cold.
Oh, blimey. I bet it's beautiful out there, though.
It is. I mean, like I've always said, there's my sea on the right, the Great North Sea, the Jurassic Coast, which is
Oh,
perfect dog walking, and then to my left, I've got the North York Moor, which is one of the biggest areas of North Yorkshire, vast and right away down as far as it goes. Mm.
yeah. It's stunning. Like, I love it when I go to Whitby and sort of head over that moor. I
It's
do
my
try and go
favourite
that
place.
route,
Yeah, it's
definitely.
a lovely. I mean, if you have never been to Whitby, then you need to go. Not Whitby in New York, but Whitby here in the UK, the northeast coast, and I'm only 16 miles away from it.
Oh, that's stunning.
That's it's a
Really
20-minute
is.
journey for me.
I'm just sharing. But yeah, I think I've always been fascinated by Whitby. I'm not sure what it is, but there's just so much, and it's everything about the place, isn't it?
I think it's the how can I put it there? It's steeped in history. It goes back way back to early fishing days. The Domesday Book, I believe. You've got, as you have on your background, the Whitby Abbey, which was built
Yeah,
by St Hilda or commissioned by St Hilda, and that was 1011, I think it was, somewhere around that period, or 1017. And before that, it was a wooden fortress. I mean, it's
oh wow.
everywhere you go in the old side of the town of Whitby. It's like York. If you've been to York,
Oh,
the
it
old
is
Tudor-like
very
look to it.
comparable, isn't it?
Yeah, cobble
And,
streets. It's got straight houses. It's not like York where everything's either leaning that way or this way. But yeah,
yeah,
amazing place.
yeah. I think I used to go there as a kid, and yeah, it's just sort of place, isn't it? What does it? And Brixham does this in another way in York, and yeah, they're just all
Yeah.
fascinating, and they've got so many stories to tell, especially if you're into paranormal.
Well, like I always say, we're very sensuous creatures, and we absorb everything from people's emotions, the fabric of the buildings, and beautiful landscapes. I mean, one best way to meditate is be out in the nowhere, sit with your back to the tree, and just absorb nature. And Whitby's one of them places. It's like, even though it could be a busy bank holiday Monday, it still has a different feel to it. It's just like you're in your own world whilst commuting around the place. And everyone who's been there will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it is fascinating. Then you can sort of get on the beach, and if you can get some Whitby jet, just a beautiful stone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's famous for its Whitby jet, but in this area where we are, there's a lot of mines which were jet mines, because jet
Okay.
isn't only found at the coast, which people think it was, as far inland as around 36 miles away from here in Great Ayton. There was originally jet mines in the 17 and 1800s, and on our old maps we use for our urban side of things, we do, it shows the kind of speckled all over the landscape. It's not just a coastal gold, it's inland as well, jet.
Yeah, but sort of everyone just assumes, like I did, that it's, the seams are like right there. So I will have to
Uh-huh.
sort of look elsewhere then, won't I? I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
find a magic piece of the black stone, but yeah, it's just
we
stunning.
we use a very old map, and you can change the dates on it, and it'll show you as far back as the early maps ever done to modern day map now. And at the bottom of it, it has a slider. And if you slide it up and down, you can see the current Google Maps. And then if you slide it back to the time scale you were on, you'll see what was once there. So when I do it with this house here where I live, it was just a farmhouse. But when I come back and look down at the same map, it's a new build which is 25 years of age, like this estate where I live. But I'll
Wow.
put a link to it, and you can play around with it, and you can find all your old mines, your jet mines, your historic buildings, even the footprints of the buildings. It might show as an old church from Anglo-Saxon time, but you go to modern day time, it might be just a field. So as a paranormal investigator like your good self, you could go there knowing that this footprint you now stood on was once an ancient site or a worshipping site.
Yeah. And that is what is so fascinating about the paranormal side, isn't it? You
Well, this
just
is
don't know
it.
what the land is, and you know, you
The
could go
fabric of the
anywhere and you've
land.
no idea. Yeah.
That's right. I often get called to places to ask to see if I can, let's just say, find out what goes bump in the night. And majority of the time, it's not the house and it's not the people living there, but it's the fabric of the land. It's that residual energy on that loop rolling by on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And it's not the fabric of the house which is now stood there 30 years of age.
Yeah, that's right. I think the most bizarre experience with me was when I went to just an old schoolhouse. It was in a village. It could have been an old chapel stroke school, just a building. Think you're going to get just children there, not much else. Hardly any people in the village. We picked up a warlock, something really
Oh,
heavy
wow.
from the old history, you know, and
Yeah.
they've got strong. You know, when you check the history, it was incredible. But you just think it's just some little village in the middle of nowhere, and my God, what we picked up that night, we're all ill for a week after it.
Really? Wow.
It was that
Wow.
strong, yeah.
I think Kidderminster is famous for that history and the warlocks, knowing the times we've worked there in the Drakelow tunnels.
Oh, that's
There was an
fascinating.
ancient burial site just above the tunnels, which was disturbed back in the Great War, the First World War and the Second World War, when they were making these tunnels. And it's said that this entity is there guiding not only the original graves to everyone who lived in this township at the time back in the date, but their energy is felt in and around there by many good mediums.
Yeah, well, Drakelow, when I went there, it was incredible, and you never really knew what you were going to get. And it wasn't
It, it
all about what happened with the car plant, was it? Or
No, not at all.
so
It's
much.
not many people died making the tunnels as well.
No,
I know there was a few people injured. One known death which I come across, and I didn't get much out of it. But the fabric of the land itself, just a quick piece about it. Me and Vicky had got there. We were working with the great John Blackburn, who was
oh,
also a
awesome,
psychic
yeah.
medium, and we took the haunted pitch in there, the Anguish Man, and whilst
Yeah,
everyone
that's
was
it.
getting set up, I said to Vicky, I've got an animal walking up the tunnel towards me, and she did turn around and say, well, it's noted for a black dog walking around, and as this creature came towards me and I was shown a mental picture of this creature, I don't think it was a dog, but then I don't think it was an animal we would see. It had, well, let's just say it was something your famous American ghost shows would say a demonic present, but I
Wow.
have different feelings about and thoughts about what's classed as demonic and what isn't. And I think it was just something we hadn't dealt with. Whether it dates back to the ancient part of the land, the
Yeah.
Black Country, Kidderminster, I don't know, but obviously using my spirit guide's assistance, we disconnected from this energy and we never came across it again. And previously in the Drakelow tunnels with John Blackburn, Lee Lawman was there, and he had sensed this same creature-like presence, which he could only describe as something with hooved feet and horns, but not of a physical known being of what we dealt with previously in the animal kingdom.
Interesting. So you don't put that as demonic then?
Well, I've always, I mean, Helen Steele, thanks for joining us, but she'll have heard me say this many, many times. People will say on a paranormal night, on a ghost hunt, whatever you want to call it, I'm not using that Ouija board, the communication board, because I don't want anything to connect to me and follow me home. And jokingly, we will say, well, why would something connected to this location, connected to the castle, to the what I call the emotional footprint of the land, why does it want to go all the way back to your house and watch Jeremy Carl with you? It's there for a reason.
Right.
It's not there for anything else. It's so when I'm talking to people who want my assistance or asking for readings to come through, they will say, what if it's this, what if it's that? And I will always say that you and me and the majority of people in the level of mediumship we do and your sensuous being will only ever deal with the worst scenario and negative energy. And then I'll ask them what's the most negative energy you could think of, and they'll name a famous murderer in history, or
that's it, an angry person, murder.
A famous leader in history who did a lot of damage in the wars. My negative interaction with someone would be the guy who stuck a pen in my ball when it went over his garden fence and he got sick of throwing it back. I mean, it depends at what level of spiritual quest you're looking at, if that's probably the best term, and what you seek out of the unknown is what level you're going to connect to. And me as a physical medium only want to connect to your loved ones, my loved ones, and the fabric of the building. And I'm not going to pursue anything darker and deeper than that. If you want to open yourself up and look into the other side, then that's your quest. That's something you have to consider doing. But my thoughts is, the majority of people in what we do will only connect with a negative person. Does these famous TV shows class negative as demonic when they shout, "Oh no, it's demonic," and start shouting down some American old school because there's a 7-foot figure with horns and it's seen by everyone except the TV show? I mean, is it just clickbait? Is it that?
I just wonder if it's just a word they just use rather than actually meaning, a demonic. It's just like if it's if it's not sort of what they call a ghost, it's a demon, and an angry spirit rather than it being anything of a, I don't know.
It's your interpretation of it, isn't it? It's I've had a very, very negative spirit who wanted to get into my aura and mess with my thoughts whilst dealing with a paranormal night. And we were at the Gainsborough Old Nick. This housed many, many bad people, people who'd not only stole, but they'd raped and murdered and a lot of things I wouldn't want to see in my time. And not only was it a police station, it was a courthouse, and in the courtyard, they hung them. So that emotional footprint was very large of the timeline I was working on, going through the time span of this building once being all of the above. And whilst working in a different part of the prison, the cells, this energy wanted to get close to me, and I was pre-warned by my spirit guide that there was an energy here with a lot of strength in the spiritual side of things, and I asked for him not to come close because I didn't want it to interfere with my work, and I asked him to keep him back. and my spirit guide said, "Well, I'll try my best,"
Oh
and that
wow.
was, and for
Yeah.
Phil to say to me, "I'll do my best for you, Neil," is thinking, well, I'm not in the physical realm. You are, and if you can't hold him back, then what are we going to do? But he did a good job. He served me well, and this is why he's my guide. That's exactly that. He does a great job for me.
Oh wow. I've got Helen Steels who said kind of happened to me after a night at Derby Jail years ago. Sad emotion that stayed with me after I've been taken over. Hey Mandy. Um,
Yeah, we're all affected in different ways.
oh
We're all
definitely.
we're all psychic. We all have the gift. It's just whether we've decluttered our minds and allowed ourselves to come into that same frequency.
Yeah.
And I've said many, many times, we'll meet people on our path as normal people, not sensitive people, or not believing we're sensitive. And shortly after meeting this person, we hear of something about them, and we say to ourselves, "Do you know there was something about that person I didn't like, and now they've just proved themselves." And this is our intuition. This is our senses picking up on negative parts of different things. Yeah, clairsentience. We all do it. Helen has come along to many of our events in the past. She has experienced quite a few things in the Old Nick Theatre, which she'd quite happily come on here and talk about. She's one of them sensitive people who've not only have I said it, she's feeling it at the same time.
Wow, that's
But yeah,
awesome. Yeah. I've done that once when Patricia Ambrose, she was sitting in trance and I was picking up everything what she was getting. That was the
yeah,
night when I actually realised that there was something out there. And that
yeah,
night
yeah,
scared the hell out of me because of what happened after that. But it
yeah.
is fascinating. Once spirits show you something, it's just like that, isn't it? There's no point. There's no point of return after that. And
No, no, yeah,
it's just a night where I showed so much, and I think it was just an indication to me of what I could achieve if I sort of carry on with the development.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
was just quite an insane night because I was just seeing things, sensing things, full blown mediumship that night when it's quite early into my sort of route into the development. So
It's
keep
it's
going.
it's something me and a guy called Shane Corbett used to joke about. Shane used to be part of GSI Paranormal, which we do, along with a guy called Andrew Alexandra, and
Oh yeah, I know Andrew. Well, I knew of Andrew.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he used to say, "I want to get to your level," and I said, "Well, there isn't a level." I said, "You're sensitive. You're picking up on the fabric of the building, the land, and things you're telling me I've already absorbed from entering the building." I said, he said, "Yeah, but I want to be like you." And I said, well, there's no end of the road where you get a certificate and say, that's it, you know everything, because we're always learning. We'll always experience something different from the other person. Two mediums can work alongside each other and both get different connections. Hi, Sarah. We'll all get different connections and we all feel different sides. I was always given things in my early days, like a jigsaw in my third eye. And as I was reading to someone, I'd be piecing that jigsaw together to ask for them significant things that this person, because we've all had two granddads and we've all had two nanas, and to say I've got a granddad figure here with me now and describe him, and they go, "Oh no, that's not that," but there was another granddad, so I'll ask for them key things. He had a
Yes.
limp, he had both legs, he had a finger missing, and then straight away they make the connection, and it's hard to get to that level and understand what they're trying to tell you. And this is where it's key, where the sooner we can make that connection with your spirit guide and they become your firewall to protect you, that it gets clearer and clearer. But that doesn't mean if you never make a connection with your spirit guide, you'll never be sensitive, you'll never be a medium, you'll never be spiritual. a lot of people in the spirit world working with spirit are not all of the sensiers which are out there. Some are only clairsensious, some don't hear them. They get the clairvoyance, the images. We all get these images differently to the other people. But yeah, it's this. So you saying you were at this level, I mean, you were no different to me, and I've been doing it for a long time. But it's how we portray this information across. The collective information we're being given is just the hard work of it, because what you see in your mind and what's portrayed across to yourself doesn't always make sense. I could tell you about a cake I made yesterday and how I decorated, and you've already created that image in your head.
Yeah.
And when I show you it, you go, oh, well, that wasn't the one I had in my head. So addressing that to a reader and giving that information across isn't always that clear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's right, because you can be given sort of the image of your grandmother to show something, or, you know, whether it's personality or how she looks because it's similar to someone else's grandmother, or because
that's right.
it is a grandmother. You know,
that's right.
It's for you to understand how it works, isn't it? The way it works for you. But I certainly don't know the spirit guide side of things. I don't seem to work out the link yet. I know they're around me. Well, everyone says they're around you, don't you know? But as yet, I kind of feel protected in my house, and I've got things going off in my house all the time. That's fair enough.
Just because you haven't got that connection with a spirit guide, this is for everyone who's watching. Just because you haven't got that connection with your spirit guide doesn't mean that you haven't got one, because before we're assigned to this earth plane, a spirit guide is assigned to you, and he, she, or whatever will be at your side, assisting you on your journey. Now, there'll be other guides who join him, and they'll be outside of his circle. So you'll have your loved ones, my mum and dad, my sister, the people who are in the spirit world connected to me. Then we have our animal kingdom and our distant relatives. And you have to remember, guys, that time is a man-made concept. It was invented by man. It didn't exist. No one back in the caveman days went, oh, it's 10 I'm off to work now, mate. There was never a time. They might have looked at the sun and thought, well, when it's about there, I normally fall asleep, but they didn't say that's 12 o'clock.
Yeah,
it's something which was invented not too long ago. With spirit and time, there's no concept. So for my parents to come and visit me now and visit my brother in Australia within a minute later, he'll say, well, no, they've just been to my house, so they can't be at your house because it's a 21-hour flight that way. And but not in the spiritual world. It isn't. There's it's they can connect to you, your energy, instantly.
And that is fascinating, and like sort of done it where, oh dear, we tried to communicate to, tried to sort of communicate with somebody in the US. You're trying to get the same information. I forget what it's called, but that was intriguing, and we were picking things up as well. You know, like
communicating with the spirit. Do you mean?
Well, I don't know. It's a person. Remote viewing. That was it.
Remote viewing. Yes.
Yeah.
My mum was good at doing that.
Oh wow, that's brilliant. That's going to be a spiritual connection somehow, anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. It. In my early days, I used to impress my girlfriends by asking them, "Can I do remote viewing?" And I came up with some bizarre things. I stopped. It just wasn't worth putting under the bed.
Yeah.
But I remember one, and we're going back many years. And whilst I was trying to walk through a home of ours which I hadn't been to, I kept getting shown this glitter ball. And I said, look, I'm going to come back to this, but I keep opening a door and there's a disco ball hanging from the ceiling. Well, she wet herself laughing. She said her mother had installed one in the dining room, and at Christmas time, she lights it up. And I said, "And what do you do for the rest of the year?" She said, "Oh, we just leave it there." But yeah, it's a glitter ball hanging from your room having your Sunday dinner. That's amazing, there.
But yeah, it's funny because I saw one yesterday and I thought, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, good. I went to a bar and they had one up, which was yeah. So there you go. Some folk never change.
Yeah. You're right there, Helen.
Yeah, earlier on you sort of mentioned spirit and particularly strong presence. Do you sometimes feel that spirit kind of square up to you some way and see you as a challenge?
Do you mean in your face?
Um, Energy wise, they try and challenge you, sort of energy level, because you are sort of strong.
So I've always said that we're attacked in our spiritual character many ways in one. If we don't, or if we let down our guard to an extent as a medium, then obviously we're more likely. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll put it a different way. How many times have our listeners come home from work and sat down and flopped in the chair and went, bloody hell, I'm absolutely knackered. I haven't even done anything, and I feel like I've done 10 rounds with Tyson. Well, this is the universe's energy. This is everything out there which we normal people don't see with our eyes and hear with our knees. You can sit in a waiting room waiting to tell your doctor that you keep getting an itch between your fingers, and when he goes in there, you want to tell him about everyone else's problems you've absorbed as well. And
Oh
this
my
is
God.
this is energy. And I always talk about energy as a physical medium because allegedly the universe was created by the atom exploding, which is energy. Me and you and everything around us have all been made out of the same material, energy. Energy is a force which cannot be created or destroyed. The thermodynamics of energy. The Chinese used energy to put a train on a magnet and shoot it across their country at 200 miles an hour without any wheels. It's a force which is always there. So the more we work with energy, the stronger it gets. And this is why on a paranormal event, we'll link arms and build that energy and bring the
Yeah,
nice clear white ball into the focus and let it go through our bodies and get that ring of energy circulating around like a Tesla ball. And
that's
then
my
we'll,
favourite. Yeah, I
yeah,
like that.
and you can feel that static like feeling through your body. And inadvertently, you're actually taking the energy from this guy here across to this guy, and you're a human chain. And I dare say, if someone touched the candle at the end, it might light. It's a powerful thing. It can be created or destroyed. As this part of our body dies, our
Yeah,
soul's still there, and our soul is energy. It's still there, and this is where we will always encounter spirit because it's still around. So we do have people in the spirit world in locations where there's a very strong physical footprint. Let's just say a big battle where this one person took it upon himself to slaughter everyone, and he still thinks he's out there doing it now. And you walk into his field, and if he's intelligent spirit, then it's that movie scene from Ghost where Patrick Swayze walks onto the train and that guy comes up and goes, "Get out, this is my carriage, this is my train," and throws him off the train. It's like, this is his territory. He's a red robin. He won't let anyone in.
yeah,
And me and you could be intrusive in that space. And although we may not physically connect to him as a spiritual being, we might finish that night with one hell of a banging headache because of his
yeah,
attacks on us. And this is where I'm coming with the concept of the universe. We could be kicked, punched, and everything throughout our physical working day and assume the boss is working us too hard, but we could be absorbing everyone else's energy too, who are bringing us down at the same time. We've all listened to that conversation, and when they walk off, you think, bloody hell, I felt like slitting my wrists. I mean,
oh my God,
listening to
yeah.
her, they've drained you, and this is what energy does as well.
Yeah.
It charges you and it drains you.
Oh, I know. I was well drained today. Certainly had to
Yeah.
chill after work. It was, yeah, you get these days, don't you, on a Monday as well. So, what happened then at the Fox after the
So
entity?
the Fox is a 300-year-old coach inn. It was in its day. And coaches, when I say coach, I don't mean a double-decker bus, but
Oh, yeah,
horse
the
and
old
cart.
style, your horse and
You could
cart, yeah.
travel from one township to another through North Yorkshire, and it was one of them points where it stopped for an overnight stay. Now, this same location is now an active public house. A friend of mine owns it. We've had many a time in there. We actually rented all the hotel rooms one time at Halloween just to do an event. And there was one room when I first walked into this place, which I knew it experienced very negative things in there. Without going deeply into what actually happened, the landlord was one of them guys who was a touchy-feely guy, and he took advantage of a housekeeper way back in the late 1800s, and all that negative and emotional footprint is still left in this room because this is the room where she was attacked. And when you walk in there was two energies on two different occasions. The original landlord, which I come across, and then a second landlord on our revisit, where this guy was the worst. And it was when his presence was there, when you were talking about him, you could feel that energy. As Helen said, it was very like muddy in the room, I would say, very thick. You've heard the saying, you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. It was
Yeah.
like that. And we reserved this one room so no one could sleep in it. And over the night of hiring the hotel, any person, whether they wanted to go to sleep or still adventure in this location, then they could go and sit in room 3. And Helen did that. And like she said, experience with a dark evil mirror. I made a black scrying mirror, and we
Wow.
took that there, and a lot of people had a lot of experiences with it.
That's brilliant. I do like the scribe mirrors. They are interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of can get some right images. As long as, like, when you do scrying, though, sometimes maybe mind makes up things. It's a question of what's
Pareidolia,
actually,
yes.
it's
Yeah.
whatever is, are your eyes making something up, or are you actually getting imprint over your face? It is intriguing. I can do it, and generally I can get something through. But you kind of wonder if people are just seeing things. But then, if there's more than one person and saying, "Oh, I can see this and this" at the same time, not
Yeah.
copying off each other, then
Yeah.
you've certainly got
Mhm.
something, haven't you?
Yeah. And I'm a great believer in clearing our thoughts before we do anything like that,
Yeah,
or even going to a location, because if we go in their mindset that I want to see my parents come through the scrying, excuse me, then we're going to already create that image in our mind's eye, and we're looking for that. And most of us look like our parents. We have the eyes. I've got my dad's ears and nose, bless me. And straight away we start making that jigsaw of the image, and we end up inadvertently turning it into our parents. So to sit down with a nice clear mind and focus solely on the image, then you're more likely to get something else come through as well, rather than a loved one. What I did, there's a video on my YouTube channel under that name, is I made a black scry mirror. And the long and short of it is to get a good size photo frame, get some high gloss paint and spray the back of the glass, let it dry with no debris flying about. And once
yeah,
it's fully dry, pop it back in the picture frame, which is ready made, and then you have literally a black gloss image, but in the right light and with the light either side, you can faintly see your image coming through. And like I say, with the right candles, the right low light, it works very well. And scrying was originally done with black scrying mirrors before we invented copper and put it on the back of mirrors and then got the reflective way. There's a Wikipedia article on scrying and the ancient methods using black scrying. They used to cover it with just a dull substance, whatever they could get in a dye format, they'd cover it. So you were literally, long as you had the glass effect to do the reflection, then it would work.
Oh, that's fascinating, and definitely something to try. Yeah,
Yeah,
might
very
try
simple.
that. You know, it's so simple, isn't it? Like,
The supermarket will sell you 16 by 8 photo frame for $2.99 ready made, and all you have to do is take that imitation picture out the back, get some car paint in a nice garage or somewhere where there's no wind and debris floating about. Just nice clean sweeps, put 2 coats on after the first one's dried. Do not touch the back because you'll leave a thumbprint and that'll always be. But before you do it, I will say clean it first with gloves on, because once you leave a fingerprint on there and then spray it, that fingerprint will be there all the time.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, because you've got grease on your fingers, haven't you, really? And yeah, it just leaves a mark, and that's that. Just as you would whenever you touch any glass. Just marks
Absolutely,
it. Yeah, it's fascinating. I'll certainly have to try that one. So I've also got a question here about the old Nick. Then you mentioned something of it. What happened then?
We've been there quite a few times. We had 2 people there who wanted to be part of an experiment, and we were using the mirror to do the scrying. I was asking Spirit to manipulate their being with the utmost respect. I didn't want them pushed over. I didn't want them poked or prodded, but I wanted them to manipulate their stance. And through working with Spirit and my guide, we actually ended up with one of the persons frozen to the spot where myself, Andrew, Alexandra, Shane, Corbett, we had to physically carry her out of the room. She'd and then I had Spirit to let go, and all the senses came back to normal. She was the energy I was working with was a woman who would have been a grandma figure, curly hair. She even had an apron on tied to her waist, like she would have cooked every Sunday for the family. And I think the girl at the time, who was called Shelley, if I'm right, she could connect to this person once I brought her through. And we saw kind of light anomalies in the room, which were unexplainable, not through our video footage, but people were seeing a ready brick glow around this person. If though the energy was coming from within, out over, and it was like similar to how your lights are doing on the back wall behind you. It was that kind of if though you had a bright light behind you and that you were all blacked out in a silhouette, but this beam of light was coming out. We stood Helen, who's just commented there in the doorway, and I repeatedly asked Spirit to make the way through the door, but again with respect, to gently move Helen out the way. And the Spirit did move her out of the way with quite a shunt, actually. Something she couldn't have done the way she was standing, and fortunately we were there to catch her. But he meant no malice. He wasn't a negative thing. I asked him to do a job, but we were dealing with people from a very early time in the late 18th century. What might have been a push for me and you might have been a kick for them.
Yeah. Oh, but it is fascinating. I think it's a place I want to go. So it's a few times I've nearly sort of ended up there, but with that much of history, it is fantastic, isn't it?
It's
want to go.
If you have a researcher working alongside of you, then I would certainly recommend them to go and do that research through the medias, through Google, through Wikipedia. I'd probably not ask them to look at what other people have come across, because on face value, we don't know if it's real or not what they're telling us. And I don't mean that with disrespect, but
I get you.
to read the history from yesteryear in text form rather than listen to their experience. And Vicky will tell you that every time we've gone to a location, I go there blind, and I don't mean blindfolded, but we go into a location, and when we get there, we'll tell you. And I climb out of a car and I see an old Victorian schoolhouse in Nottingham, and I start from there. So that's the best way, and it's like asking you to think of a number, but not subconsciously put numbers in your head first.
That's right. I prefer that way. That's what I do.
Yeah, it's the best way, because it's a blank canvas, and whatever comes through then. I mean, we were down at the old Victorian school in Nottingham, and from dusk till dawn had hired my services as a medium. And I'd gone down there with Vicky and Jan, who's one of our she's our researcher but also an investigator. And when we got there, and we'd made a connection with a certain person in this area, every time I tried to connect to him, I kept being shown a film reel of Jurassic Park. And I don't know why, and we laughed about it afterwards, and I asked for more information for this person. And again, I was shown images of Jurassic Park, whether someone was playing with me or not, just to kind of give me cryptic clues. And then when I finally got his name, his surname was Attenborough.
Oh my gosh.
He was actually a brother or sibling, I'm not quite sure now, of David Attenborough, or Richard
Nottingham
Attenborough,
direction,
who did Jurassic Park, or who was in there. And he was trying to give me that connection, and the only way he saw to give me the connection was this film reel of Jurassic Park. And it was quite bizarre. I think we have it on camera, me trying to make this connection, and I kept banging my head saying, something not right here. I'm seeing a 1994 movie here, and I'm trying to connect to this person. But it made sense in the end. And this takes us back to the jigsaw, how we perceive and connect to this information. And what might, I mean, many years ago, as I was young, and like my first experiences of this, my mum said to me, she said, Neil, when you speak to someone and you start doing this, accept everything which comes into your head and pass it through an imaginary sieve or colander. She said, everything which free falls through that colander, pass it as a reader to that person. She said, anything which is left in this colander, this imaginary colander there, at the end, say, right, this is what I'm still left with. I haven't told you because I'm not sure, because I'm still developing. But let me just give you this information as well. And she said, 9 times out of 10, it'll all be connected as well. And I found that it worked. Rather than think, why have I been given this colour? Why have I been given this place? Why have I been given this name? It doesn't seem right. And at the end, say, right, how did you find it? And listen to what they're saying. Say, right, I've closed myself down now, but this is what I've still got in my sieve. This name, this colour, this place, this date. Can you accept it? And they go, well, yeah, I wish you'd have said that, because that was the person you were talking about. And then you start making the sieve a little bit wider and allow more through it, imaginary sieve. And before long, you realise you're holding yourself back, because what you're being given was all factual anyway. But it's just that we don't want to look silly in the early days when we're learning
that's
it.
right.
We don't want to talk about someone in the family who used to be a welly throwing championship, when it doesn't sound right when he lives in the middle of a township. And it turns out his ancestors lived in Wales, and that's what they did for a living, competitions, chucking Wellingtons from one field to another. So it might be vital information you're holding on to. Years ago, ghost night, young woman had been attacked. Went over and stood in front of him, guard him. Medium looked at me and said words that still harm me, the spirit fighting you, because I stood in front of the woman. And that's it, Carl. it's that physical attack on the human body from spirit. And us as humans, we don't believe we're feeling them punches. It's not a literal punch which gets smacked in our face, but it knocks the jahibas out of us when it comes to our energy levels. And if we walk into that location and we're full from here down over, we'll come out from our feet up over with only that much energy left, flashing, saying you need to recharge yourself. And that is a classic sign. The medium could see that you were a human shield to stop him attacking her. So he chose to attack you, Carl, which is what I said. This is we're attacked more ways than one, full on in our face, and we don't even know we're getting attacked.
Yeah, that's it. Because I was hosting at Tutbury Castle a few weeks ago, and the first time I was down there, I was down in the dungeon. I said, "You're free to use my energy." Oh my gosh! When I got home, everywhere was aching. I was that drained. I felt all right, Rick. I thought, yeah, you've gone too far there, but I did give him permission, didn't I?
Yeah, we call it the paranormal hangover. It's I
But
think
that was, to get my legs aching, to get everywhere
yeah,
aching as well. That was a bit extreme. Like, yeah, sure enough, you get a headache, you feel drained, but oh my gosh, to struggle to get out of bed because you're absolutely wiped out was,
yeah, yeah. I
incredible.
mean,
But
you have to remember the focus we put into it as sensitive people, as mediums, whatever level we work at. We open ourselves up. We open up our chakras. We ask for spirits with the utmost respect to make as much contact with us as possible, with the utmost respect. And sometimes we open ourselves too much, and every man and his dog in the spirit world wants to tug on your sleeve, say me next, and energy is a powerful thing, and hence why your legs are absolutely worn out the next day,
yeah,
because you've carried the whole of the afterlife on your shoulders throughout the night, waiting for that next connection.
I'll put it this way: it's a public event. Within the first session down there, 45 minutes, 2 people threw up.
Oh,
Because it
really?
was that
Wow.
strong, yeah.
Yeah,
There's 14 of us, no, 14 guests and me, and it was just so intense. It really was, and I always
yeah,
try and give out as much energy I can to try and get, usually something does happen around me, but whoops, at a public event,
yeah.
2 people quite, oops.
A lot of people do protection prayers and opening prayers
Oh yeah,
and closing prayers, but I've never been. I've done it, but I've never been a big lover of doing it, because I think we have our own protection from our
yes,
guides anyway. And as I've used the same example over and over, is in front of me I have a £2,000 PC, which when I bought it and put it connected to the internet, I didn't put a firewall on, because I know it's protected with its own firewall, which comes with Microsoft. And I'm not paid to say Microsoft, but it
yeah,
comes built in, or Windows Defender. So if you buy your new laptop, automatically comes with Windows Defender, and it'll do far more better than any £89 firewall you can get out
yeah,
there. Now, I'm happy to let the World Wide Web into my PC, because I know it's protected by its firewall. And I'm happy to stepping into the most darkest dungeon in the universe to deal with the afterlife, because I have that same firewall, the same defender, which I had from birth, which is my
yeah,
spirit guide. And as long as he's saying, "Don't worry, Neil, I've still got your six," then I'll keep going. It was only that one time in Drakelow, the old Nick, when he said, "I might need a hand off you," I was a little bit worried. But
yeah,
maybe his energy was just as flattened as mine was, because it's some spirits are stronger than others at time. Some will shake a table, some will shake your cutlery, someone will shake you. Doesn't mean it's demonic, but they're trying to get your attention, and it's how much energy they've got to do that. So yeah,
that's
it's
right.
Yeah, yeah. So these protection prayers, opening prayers, closing prayers, nothing's going to follow your home. Nothing's going to sit and watch loose women with you at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You're on your own with that. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I don't know, because I do have problems from a past life. And
All right. Okay.
earlier on when you said, like, you sort of, I think you were speaking as to a spirit, was it, at the old Nick, and you could feel the treacle around. Well, when I
Yeah.
speak of this one, he appears behind me.
Yeah.
Somebody from the 1800s. It's a judge in Nottingham Galleries of Justice.
All right. Okay.
So I actually used to work for him in a past life.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so much so, a couple of times ago when I went to the galleries, a really good medium, a friend, she actually saw him behind me, but she didn't know
Yeah.
about the story about past life. And
Right.
I knew he
Okay.
was with me, and it kind of strangled me at Derby Jail when I mentioned the story. I was outside in the yard, and Brian J. Kano was actually on that event, and it's an EAPI event. And we're just outside, and I was just mentioning the story about his past life, and it's like I was being strangled. So I think he might have a link to that area as well, with like the hangings with Nottingham Derby and the
Right.
judge and
Right.
everything else. And it's just a
So,
bit fascinating, isn't it?
so when you say he strangled you, was he putting a feeling on you to show
Yeah,
you
it was just
what
like,
once
yeah,
happened there? Yeah.
yeah,
Right. That
yeah,
makes
but
sense. Yeah.
that I don't know if it's just to shut me up. It might have been.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
started choking me a bit, yeah. But
Talking
it was
about
totally fascinating.
talking about spirit guides, my mother said to me, she said, Neil, when it comes time, you'll automatically meet your spirit guide. She said, lay on your bed, clear your thoughts, allow everything out of your head, declutter your head, and just lay and relax. Get into that subconscious position of where you're that far away from sleep and that far away from being awake. So you're in the subconscious level of dream state. And then the first name which comes to you, take it. She said, you could go through the first part of your journey in the spirit side of things, working with spirit, and you could be calling your spirit guide John when it's actually a woman. But
Yeah,
it's like a dog. It's how you use your tone to speak to that dog is whether it's going to walk towards you or away from you. And my dog's actually named Spirit. She's a Labrador, but I
beautiful.
can call her any name in the right tone and she'll still come to me. And it's only when we actually meet our spirit guide on a one-to-one and we develop into the level where we can see spirit and work with him, is then we get our life path story of the timeline we once were together. I mean, a classic example is Derek Akora, Sam,
Oh,
where they
yeah,
go as far back as they did in Ethiopia. They stole bread off a window sill of a mud hut, and they were slaughtered for the theft of a home baked loaf. It's me and Phil go back to Texas. We
wow.
were cowboys in the day in the late 1700s, and we were gunned down whether we were in battle or whether we were just riding along. For what purpose, I still haven't found, but he's told me that our journey ended in 1789, I think he said, and this is where we parted as physical friends in the physical world. And he come back assigned to me in this life path. Whether he was with me in another life path, but I don't know. We tend to incarnate and then find out only what's happened in the new life path anyway.
Yeah,
He might have told me the same story in my last life path between the 1700s and the 1900s, so who knows. But this time around, he's still with me. He has that musky cowboy smell to him. I always know when he's closer than I think he is, because it's not a bad odor. It's more of the fabric of his clothes, the dustiness of being in a dusty environment. Whether that's part of his presence, because we're sensuous in many ways. Smell is one of them, and I think I connected to him through the smell before I even connected to him as seeing spirit. So once we've established our spirit guide and connected to him, then obviously we just work with that. And this is something yourself and the people who are listening and watching can do as well. Meditation is one of these things where people think they have to lay for 30 minutes and meditate to get themselves to that subconscious level, and then make these connections. But I can guarantee 3 minutes into that meditation, you'll have heard a taxi bib outside for your neighbour, or the dog barking downstairs because the postman's here. Then that level of subconsciousness is just shot straight back up to wide awake. So earphones, your favorite music, a piece of music which is connected to your timeline. I can get every single one of George Michael's songs and put them on my timeline where they have a meaning to. So if I want to go back to 1986 with my first love, then I'll take Different Corner and stick it there. If I want to go to a certain time when my daughter was born, I can get Seal and Kiss from a Rose and stick it there. And it doesn't have to be a music box which plays musical sounds from the waves and space noise and stuff like that. It can just be something that you emotionally connected to as a child, in your teens, through your adolescence, or your early state of times of your adulthood. And if that is very poignant and meaningful to that time of your life, then choose that song to meditate. Set of headphones on. You can't hear your next door's dog or cat meowing, and then use that subconsciousness to do that meditation. And an excellent tip is, let's just say right now, we've still got the hustle and bustle of today going through our minds. And this is to everyone who's listening. So we're at Radio 1 at this moment in time. And Radio 1 is a very loud song. Meatloaf, yeah, perfect. Radio 1 will play all the A-sided songs which are in the charts. Bang, 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 bang. We'll never connect to spirit with Radio 1 playing. So bring our mind down to Radio 2, which is the B-sides, right? And listen to that in your mind for a little bit, and the more mellow songs. Then bring your mind to Radio 3, Radio 4, and then right away down to Radio 5. And if you've managed to listen to Radio 5 without falling asleep anyway, then you're on the right track. And it's at this subconscious level where the frequencies between you and spirit slowly do that. And all of a sudden, they pair up together. And when you get to that subconscious level, you connect. You do, because you're on that same wavelength. I said to my mum, Mum, why, when I hear this noise, which you've said is my spiritual awakening, sounds like you're talking to me when I'm underwater in the bath. She said, because you're down here, you're up here, and they're down here. Until you get that frequency all the way level, then it sounds like you're listening to someone through a mud pal. It sounds like someone's put mud in your ears and all you can hear is mum, 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 mum. And I thought it was something else. And until you clear all that clutter out of your head and then get that. I mean, the subconscious level is when you're just about to fall asleep and you hear someone go, Jacqueline, and you open your eyes and you go, I've just said my name. I do it with Vicky. I used to do it with Vicky. Have you just shouted my name? No, you haven't. Right, I'm connecting to spirit. Because we've hit that frequency together and we're connecting. Radio 5 boss trying to tell you how to do your job's never done. Yes, absolutely. You've drove home from a place, and on that road from start to finish is 5 roundabouts. You get to the second roundabout and you think, am I at the first roundabout or the 5th? Because you can't remember passing the last 5. Why? Because you were talking up here, you were on Radio 5, you were at the subconscious level, and you were now answering the voices in your head. And then all of a sudden, a wagon pulls out at the 5th roundabout, and you come back into reality. And then that subconscious level is back to Radio 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's bringing ourselves from here right away down until we get to about there. And if you've ever tuned one of them old radio stations
Oh
in,
yeah.
and it's
God.
like that, and
Wow,
you
that's
just
so long ago.
get it on the
Yeah.
light, that's you connecting to spirit like that.
Yeah.
And that's how we do it. That's how
Yeah.
I do it.
I did get a stage where I could like get images in my head, but it's like pictures or paintings, and it's really clear imagery, but it never really. Oh, I don't know. I can't say it's like caricature, but it was like a painting rather than real life.
Yeah.
And I could see
And,
that, and I wished I could have painted it because it would have been a beautiful painting.
and it potentially could have had a significant meaning to your
Yeah,
spiritual journey. Is it connected to your God? Is it connected to a past life? Or is it something
yeah,
which is part of your destiny where you're getting to? Yeah.
yeah.
We used to sit in our spiritual church when we held a spiritual circle. We used to put 2 rows, and the people who've always sat there listening to us talking to them about the loved ones, we then sat them all face to face in this row, and there might have only been 15 people there, and we've done the meditation side where I've taken them to a place of that fond memory, different corner, 1986, and I've taken them to that location, and they're there with the eyes closed, and I then ask the person opposite to try and connect to the person in front in your head, and the person opposite them then try and connect to them right away along the line of people sat there. And after 10 or 15 minutes, that's all it takes, because we don't want the car horn to go off, the fire alarm or something to distract them. We bring them back into the room. We say, right, you tell me what you had for that person. And none of these people think they're spiritual. None of them say, no, I only come here for a message because I haven't got the ability to myself. And the person there tells that one, and he says, yeah, that's my granddad, that. And the
Yeah.
person on the next row says, I think I know who you mean, because it was such and such who passed away. And it's you'd be surprised what you get through that image, that painting you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
What meaning has it got? The sieve I've talked about, I left it in the sieve. I should have brought it down. And these people are now doing that with each other, and they're going, where did that come from? Well, it's already there. It's just fine tuning it and working with it. And this is what I always say to people: it's don't believe we're not sensitive, and don't believe we haven't got the spiritual gift. It's whether you can get the mortgage payments, the car payments, the council tax
Oh
payments,
gosh, yeah.
and all that crap from work out of your head long enough just to work with spirit on that level. Yep. It's all you have
Yeah.
to do. Very
It's
easy, but
intriguing.
yeah.
Yeah.
You get shown
Yeah.
something at work, and they say, this is how you do the job, and you walk away and you go, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'll never remember that. And
Yeah.
that's the same concept of what I've just described. Before long, like my good friend Paul Mann, who sat watching, we met through incident. He walked past me with a motorbike helmet on and a camera on the side. And I said, oh, you're a vlogger? He said, no, I have a channel. Instantly, we connected. You would
Wow.
think we're married now. That's how much our relationship is.
Fascinating, isn't it?
He's now part of GSI Paranormal. He lives in this house. I live in his. We eat together. We work
Oh,
together.
lovely.
And this was just a random guy. It's if though I feel more connected to him than my brothers. And I know that's wrong to say, but just because that aren't here, I'm not. It's like he's sat in his front room now, more than likely watching this, and he's probably going to say, "You're absolutely right, brother," because that's what he calls me, and that's
Oh,
what I
bless
feel like.
you.
And I said all of the above to him about clearing your mind, getting rid of all the crap out of it, and opening yourself up. And he's slowly progressing. He's now part of GSI. We do our MC Urban Exploration together. We go to places where we film the history on it in the day, and as soon as sundown, we turn all the night vision cameras on and start
Oh,
again and
that's
work through the
awesome.
night. And and I'm about to say something, and he's saying, I might be wrong, but I feel like there's someone stood here, and I'm saying, yep, I'm just about to tell you about
Well,
him. And it's one of the videos, classic for that was we did a place called Wharton Castle, which is an Anglo-Saxon fortress from the Roman days. And we didn't have much there. It was one of them places where we'd spend 6 hours filming the first part of it, and then we started straight into the sundown and started again. So we were tired, but yeah, he's very sensitive, and I don't mean if you nip him it hurts. I mean with the spiritual side of
Yeah,
things,
it's
and we've all got
fascinating.
that gift. Yeah, we
Well,
all
we
have.
have,
And
because when I first start, well, I think as a child and like moving on, I always like avoided the spirit. I think I was always scared, too scared to acknowledge it really. And I lived in a haunted pub, and things happened, and you kind of got used to it, but you wouldn't say anything existed. I didn't. But then, like, I went on ghost hunts and said something left it thrown at me, before I
yeah,
realised that something was there. But now, I can sometimes communicate with them, and if something going on, like it's like a public event, it was table tipping human pendulum, and they go for the yes answer, I usually get given the questions to ask, and it's yeah, yeah, yeah. And then sometimes I'll ask something I know is wrong, just to check the person doing the pendulum, doing the dowsing rods, just to test them as well. And
yeah.
it's just intriguing. It's great when you can get that link. And yeah, I've gone there from like thinking, oh yeah, I don't believe in this, until yeah, it's
You have to
fascinating.
remember everything we use in the paranormal field and the only communicational devices. Ourself is the biggest communicational tool from the
Yeah,
offset. Any device we use going forward is a bonus. Uh, 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 these people who claim that they don't use a Ouija board because they don't want to be connected to anything afterwards. Well, the Ouija board is no more than a communicational
that's
device
right.
than your iPad, which has got Equivox on it. That's a
Mm,
communicational device.
yeah,
So why not when using that? Does something not follow your own with that? I mean, it just doesn't happen. So it's fear, like you've just mentioned the word fear. Fear
yeah,
comes from the unknown. Now you will stand outside some office door for your first interview, and you don't know what's on the other side of that door. And you see a fat man in a chair with a shirt and tie on, and he's going to give you a grill on why he should employ you to do this job. And you're absolutely thinking, I'm just gonna sweat all over the place, Phil, and he's gonna kick me out the room. You walk in there, you sell yourself, and he leans across and he goes, "You've got the job." And you walk out and you go, "Do you know what? Now I've known what was the other side. What was I fearing about?" And it's the same concept. Fear comes from the unknown. If you're worried
yeah.
about what's going to come underneath your bed and grab you when you turn the light off, cut the legs off the bed. Nothing's under there, then, is it?
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's brilliant.
Mm.
Helen sort of says, "What happened at Is it Towton Battlefield?"
Ta- it's Taunton. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
Me
I was
and
about to get it wrong.
me, no, I don't know the correct saying. So me and Paul are going to go to Taunton, very soon and film daytime and nighttime. So a little bit of history on Taunton. The bloodiest battle in England was fought on the fields of Taunton. The
Wow.
Englishmen and the Lancashire on in 556 years ago on Palm Sunday. It was snowing on the day. Uh, a king who was only 18 years of age wanted Lancashire, and they wanted North Yorkshire or Yorkshire, and they
Yeah.
came together in these two fields. Palm Sunday, it was snowing, so the advantage to the Yorkshiremen is they were uphill and the Lancashires were down here, and they fired all their arrows across into where they would be, and 20,000 people died within the first hour of the battle. The battle went on for 24 hours. A lot of treason was committed, where they were ordered that even though they were dead, just make sure they were dead. And they physically chopped each and every person up in this field to the extent that they say for months and months and months the rivers run red, because
Oh
as
God. Yeah.
the everything come out of the fields into the rivers, which was either side,
Yeah, snow melting
was
and stuff.
yeah.
Isn't it?
There's loads of history on it. The Battle of Towton. There's some nice YouTube videos on it about the reconstruction of these people. But all the time we were there, in our video we have on GSI Paranormal, as we're walking around, you keep hearing me say, I can hear a horse stamping its feet.
Okay.
And Shane and Andrew eventually started hearing this noise, and they said, what is it? And I said, the only way I can describe it, it's if though you stood outside of a barn and a horse keeps stamping its foot inside the barn. It's a thud.
Yeah.
And we went all the way around, did our things. We had a lot of interaction, and I had the feeling that someone was following us with or without a horse all the way around, to the extent that I made contact with this gentleman at what's called the Body of Bridges on this field, where so many people ran across the river and drowned. They ended up forming a bridge, and everyone escaped and ran across them bodies. There's loads of history on it, but I'm just going to show you a picture we took at the end of the night. And believe it or not, someone asked me about this today. So at the end of the night, we said, "Howie lads, let's get a selfie," and we did. Now it was 3 o'clock in the morning. We were using a night vision camera, but it wasn't the green screen, the green one. It was a white one. And Shane took this image, and this has been in all the newspapers. This picture.
Right.
So behind us is a road. We stood at the Holy Cross, which is the memorial site. And when I came home, that picture became my screensaver, right? It was my wallpaper. And when I bought a new computer and put it there and then switched my computer, when I bought a new monitor and switched it out, when I switched the PC back on, the monitor was a lot brighter than what it used to be. Now, this is a year after the date. And when I looked at the image again, right in the background is a man sat on a horse.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, is that my Texan cowboy followed us around the field, protecting me?
Wow.
Or is it one of the noblemen who was of intelligent energy following us all the way around to see what we were up to? He's a better one. This is, if you type Neil Cook ghosts in Google. So that was a farmer's field which just ran off into the distance. That was, some people say it's two men sat there. Two people are stood there.
Wow.
I know that field after the tree went down a slight embankment. So if what I know to be a horse and a nobleman sat on it, we can't see the horse's legs because he's in the trench of the ditch, and that's him sat there on his horse. Yeah. But Neil Cook ghosts in Google,
just put it on. Yeah.
And you'll find many, many stories which the newspapers have covered.
Oh, spout your name wrong. What were like? Oh well.
Cook.
Yeah, I'm trying to, and then the screen went dodgy. But yeah.
Fat fingers.
I know. I think I screwed up my comments as well. Hey ho. It didn't like it.
There's a lot of good catches there. We have the one from the old Coach Inn where we caught the picture and the video of the girl walking across the bar. We have that one from Battle of Towton. We did the Air Museum in Sunderland where we sat in the helicopter which flew in the Falklands crisis and rescued everyone off the ship in the Great Fire on the tragic event that day. Now, the helicopter wasn't decommissioned. It was then used for air, sea, land rescue. And when it come to its end of days, it was bought by the museum and repainted. Now, Helen was there that night. Shane, Andrew, Vicky, Jan, myself as the medium. And I sat in this helicopter on the door area where you would be rescued and brought up to. And as I connected to spirit and start working with spirit, I asked everyone who was in a circle around us to give us a sign that there was an energy attached to this helicopter. And everyone who stood around said the helicopter started shaking. Now, this is 35 ton of scrap metal on flat tires now vibrating to the extent where people were touching it and they could feel it vibrating. I then asked for more signs just for clarity, and the winch, which was never been used in so many years because it was rusted up, just started swaying like that. And everyone was stood there watching it. I walked to the front of the helicopter after working with spirit, and I felt the energy of this pilot was still sat there watching me. So I then took a picture. I then took 6 pictures of the front of the helicopter. 2 of them had a haze over the top, and the third one showed the helicopter pilot, Lieutenant Bartholomew, sat there. So I'm just going to bring that image up now for you guys. It's a bit grainy. Let's just bring that up if I can spell. So it's another newspaper clipping, and it's got them magic circles around it where the ghost always appears in the magic circle.
Definitely.
How we managed to take them pictures, and there's always a hula hoop there. So I'm going to hold this up to my 4K camera. I know we're not broadcasting in 4K, but let's see if we can get this. So you can see his wings on his hat. Let me turn it around, right? You've got a McDonald's sign.
Gosh. Yeah.
See the McDonald's sign? That's the wing symbolically. Then you've got a gentleman who looks like Hitler. Yeah?
Yeah.
You see the whites of his eyes, his nose, his face. And a lot of people have said many, many other faces appear in that window. And they probably do, because you have to remember that this helicopter not only carried all these soldiers off a burning ship, some who died, some had suffered amputations, burns, severe burns. There were.
Was it Galahad? Was it that one?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
So and there's, I mean, we know of that famous soldier who was seriously disfigured. Yeah, and so that helicopter lifted as many as people it could off there. Now, how many people were carried off there dead? Yeah, it's an awful thought, but it's war. How many people are attached to that helicopter because that was the thing which saved their lives? They might have been badly burnt and lost a few digits or something, but their last known memory prior to dying was that. Captain Bartholomew flew in the Falklands War. Inside the helicopter, Mick was so excited. But yeah, it was another one of them experiences. It's your communicational device. It was a cheap Galaxy phone, which, I mean, did nothing but take a half decent picture. And he's the pilot sat there like that, watching me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get images, I don't know, but I keep taking photos, but we'll see. Maybe, I've maybe captured, I think there's 2 photos of me with something going off with spirit, and maybe got 2 or 3 others, but yeah, I'll just keep at it, and that's it, isn't it? But I do photography anyway, so I've got thousands of photos, but generally, the R of a tree, of, whatever landscape. I've got a question here then. Are you able to get names out of places you go besides the story, essence of the unknown spirit?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to get names from spirit I'm working with. A classic example is, like Helen's just said, I'd named the pilot, and this pilot who was attached to the helicopter might not have been the pilot who flew in the Falklands War, but his energy was attached there. So was his energy there because when the helicopter got decommissioned, he was the last pilot? I don't know. But there's, for every spirit you interact with, somewhat fortunate to get names, locations. They tell me the story, which is the paranormal story, history. Um, the old the Victorian school in Nottingham. This guy was telling me he was Mister. I can't think of his name now.
The head
Attenborough.
teacher. Oh yeah, you got
Yeah,
yeah,
and he was a teacher at the school. This Mister Attenborough was a teacher there, and his relation was which I get mixed up. David Attenborough's the
they were related.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you've got
uh,
Richard Attenborough, which is the movie guy, isn't it?
yeah, and David
David
C,
Attenborough,
nature
the
guy.
nature guy. So
Yeah,
he was telling me he was connected to Richard Attenborough
yeah.
through blood, but in order for him to do it, someone was showing me images of Jurassic Park. So eventually I got the name from him, and I only got given Mr. Attenborough, which then tells me is of authoritative figure in there. Uh,
Yeah.
and when I dried up on the subject, Jan then turned around and said, "Well, that's bizarre because Mr. Attenborough was here." And I said, "What, the actor?" And he said, "No, his brother. He was a school teacher here." And you mentioning Jurassic Park in the first early stages of these dinosaurs is because that was the connection between them two, and that's what
Yeah.
he was trying to give you. And she shares that information after we leave a certain area of that building.
Awesome.
Uh,
Yeah.
we we filmed for a TV network up in Scotland, along with David
Barrett.
David Barrett. So
Very Barrett. Yeah.
we did Jedburgh Jail and Inverness Jail. This was filmed for the TV company True Ghost Stories, and it was to air on the UK on the American network on one of their preview style channels. It's still yet to come to the UK, but the 2 episodes I've got hold of on my YouTube channel,
Awesome.
and we went around. I went off with a TV crew. In They said, right, you go, we'll follow you. So I walked all the way around this part of the prison, whilst the paranormal side of it was setting up in another part. I connected to the guard. I give him his name. Outside the cell where the guard sat was a dog. It took me a while to work the breed of the dog out, but they gave me, it was a bulldog, and I could get that from the noise it was making. Other little things like that. And when we get back to where David Barrett is with his team and the rest of the crew, I didn't say, "Oh, I've just connected to this, that, and the other, and these are the names." David then using ITC asked
Yeah.
Spirit for the connections, and David says in his classic smooth, silky voice, "Can you tell me who Neil's just connected to? What's the name of the dog?" And it goes clearly out of this speaker, Bulldog, and
Awesome.
straight away. And there was a lot of other things like that. And then this Scottish strong character voice came through, who I believe was someone I'd previously connected to you on the voice box on live on this recording. You hear him shout, "Is that you, Neil Cook?" I
Oh
mean,
my God.
you
Yeah.
can't
It's
program
fascinating.
names into things like that on the hope that one day you might work with a spirit medium or person who has the same name. It's a voice bank preloaded. And
Yeah.
this Scottish voice, which I have the same app, and it doesn't come through Scottish when I'm in England. And it was
Yeah.
all the voices were coming through in Scottish, so we were connected to the law of the land. And this guy's, "Is that you, Neil?" And David said, "Where are you from?" He said he's from England. It's like, it was amazing. It's
Yeah.
like crossover evidence. You can't warrant it. It's like I could tell you all the people I've just connected to in the location, and on face value, you have to believe me. But when
Well, that's right.
you pull your ITC out and say, "Who's Neil just connected to?" and I've already
That's to
told
come
you,
out.
and
Yeah.
that tells you again, it's secondaries the connection. It's what we call crossover
Validation.
evidence.
Yeah.
And them two videos are available on Neil Cook YouTube, Spirit Medium, on my playlist. You'll find them under Spiritual, not my Cookin channel. Jed Berg Jail, Neil Cook, David Barrett, Jed Berg, and Invenary. And you'll see exactly what I've just told you about, but in all its glory as well. Some amazing footage, some amazing interaction, some amazing experiences. And that was of everyone, not just me, not me as the medium, but the paranormal investigators.
Yeah.
David's partner at the time asked what happened to her and what did the spirit want to do. And if you watch it, you'll clearly hear what it wants to do to her and what it's previously done. It's quite some of the best, what David described as some of the best crossover evidence he's ever caught working with the medium and ITC. And
yeah,
the proof's in the
he does use ITC a lot, and we are running out of time, which is terrible. Just do this. I've got a question, but I'll ask it. It's because we've got Dark Mirror Show coming on at 9:30 on the Things Network. So I've got to come off by then, you see. How do you determine if responses or spirit versus your own PK?
PK, what's PK? Is that what's
whether
that
it's your own psyche or something?
If it's what? Sorry.
I wonder if it's to do whether it's spirit or just your imagination.
Well, it's we all judge things, and we have to learn to judge the information we get given, whether it's from a colleague at work and you know that it's from a very good source, or they're trying to make you trip up and do something wrong. And I've learned with working with my spirit guide and the information given to me as a clairsentious psychic medium, physical medium, that I know which source it comes from now.
Oh, that's brilliant. Something I'm wondering, like, I've got a theory now on this. Do you think individuals have different forms of equipment what work for them specifically? And do you think that's down to a spirit guide around you and what they can use?
Equipment as in ITC, we did the old coach in 1 year. We went back the same year and Spirit did nothing for us. So I put the ITC in the middle of the floor and said, right, guys, it's your night. You paid for it. With respect, I want each and every one of you to ask that a question. And it was the Equivox. Someone said, what was my brother's name? It shout out Brian. And he was like blown away. A gentleman, an oldish gentleman, said, where did my parents live? And it shouted out the town they lived at, Eston, which is a town. I mean, this is Equivox. No one sits there and puts every name of every town and every boys and girls' names in it. And most of the noises is phonetically pronounced. It's not like an ITC spirit box where it shouts like words like the ovulus. It's a phonetic device. And when that turns around and goes, Brian, and this guy lost his best mate, his brother called Brian, the proof's in the pudding. And it's again another video under the coach in North Yorkshire on our YouTube channel.
Wow. It's just been an incredible chat. It's a shame, but we've got to go now. But thank you so much, Neil. And thanks everyone for who's joined in the conversation. Thanks so much. Helen, Maria, Carl, everyone, thank you so much. And take care, and Vicky as well. She's got sort of spirit out. Yeah, thank you. Oh, bless you. But take care and thanks everyone.
Okay, guys, thanks for listening to me.
Thank you. Bye.